Hello, friends. If you're curious about the movie The Hangover Part II, 2011, you're in the perfect place. Don't forget to give this video a quick like, it really helps us out. And if you're new here, hit subscribe to stay updated on all the latest movie deep dives. Let's jump right in. Dawn breaks over the bustling skyline of Bangkok, simmering in humidity and the promise of adventure, as four friends step off a private jet with memories as blank as the gleaming tarmac. Their mission, pitched as a low-key reunion of camaraderie and new beginnings, glittered with the sheen of familial obligation, a wedding in the tropics to celebrate a brother's second chance at love. Yet beneath the layered silk and garlands of orchid leis lay the faint scent of déjà vu, an unspoken fear that history might repeat its most riotous mistakes. From the moment they slide into an opulent villa perched overlooking the Chao Phraya River, the atmosphere crackles with unbridled possibility. Neon lanterns dangle from jasmine-scented boughs, casting playful shadows across mandarin furnishings, each room more lavish than the last. Teddy, bridegroom-to-be and perennial romantic, greets them with a grin that barely masks his awkward anticipation. He's flanked by Stu, the anxious dentist whose wedding vows still echo in his mind. Phil, the recklessly charismatic leader armed with a crooked atlas and endless bravado, and Alan, whose earnest heart hides behind a curtain of naivete and misfired wisdom. They toast beneath paper lanterns, cigars, champagne, and laughter tumbling like firecrackers into the sultry night. Each clink of glass resonates with relief that this time they've learned their lesson. They're not in Las Vegas. They're a world away, in a place where they don't know the terrain, the language, or the local laws, the perfect remedy for any leftover recklessness. Yet as the tequila flows, logic falters, and the villa's siren song lures them into another epic debauchery, fueled by the unspoken rule that best friends should never let each other face chaos alone. Morning arrives with a verdict harsher than hangover headaches. The villa is a ransacked husk of shredded cushions and splintered wood, the wedding gifts lie strewn across broken tiles, and the bed where Teddy should be awaits, cold and empty. No sign of the groom. Stu wakes with a jagged gash on his face but no recollection of how or why. A monkey perches in a potted orchid, eyeing them with silent judgment. A tattoo, freshly inked across Phil's chest, spells out an indecipherable mantra in Thai script. And Alan's missing, nowhere to be found amidst the wreckage, nor in the delirious text messages left on cell phones, one of which hints at a secret supplier known only as Black Forest. What follows is a madcap odyssey through Bangkok's underbelly, a scramble to piece together shards of memory like detectives in a fever dream. Their first clue emerges in a taxi they can't recall hailing. Behind them in the back seat sits a small, marble-faced baby, hunched in a wool sweater, its gaze bright and accusing. Cabs whiz past towering neon facades and rickshaw-choked alleys as they chase rumors of teddy bears in nightclubs and illicit poker rings, their maps scribbled in cryptic doodles. Each whisper leads to another dead end or a near miss with local law enforcement, who regard these pale, hungover Americans with a mixture of bemusement and thinly veiled menace. In the luminous gloom of a massage den, they uncover whispers of Stu's clandestine deal with the proprietor, a debt settled with more than money, while Phil's car keys surface in a karaoke bar where he sobbed out personal ballads once reserved for family therapy. Teddy's wedding ring is discovered buried in a temple alcove, nestled within a row of offerings, raising tremors of dread that this celebration may require more divine intervention than simple wedding vows can provide. The friends learn that every modern convenience, GPS trackers, surveillance cameras, even smartphone photos, has been rendered useless by one extraordinary mistake. They handed all their devices to blackjack dealers in the gilded chaos of Monkey Business nightclub in exchange for a bottle that allegedly unlocks the truth. The stakes twist sharply when Stu, guided by panic, deciphers the scrawled phrase on Phil's chest, a Buddhist proverb roughly translated as, "Only through darkness do we see the stars." In that moment, they realize the tattoo isn't random bravado but a breadcrumb left by Alan, who, they surmise, awoke with unexpected clarity, if only for a heartbeat. Their frantic search leads them through backroom tattoo parlors to clandestine elephant sanctuaries, where giant beasts lull them with leathery clucks and the distant roar of traffic. At each stop, the haze of memory clears and clouds again, like snapshots burned onto drooping Polaroids washed in street lamp glare. The turning point arrives in the heart of the city's red light district, beneath strings of papaya lanterns and the hum of late-night markets. A chance photograph on an ATM screen reveals Alan, dressed in a linen suit and tie, guided by a smiling monk through a hidden alley. Shock ripples through the group. Not only is their beloved oddball responsible for their collective amnesia, but he's moved with purpose towards a place of solemn ritual. Racing to the Wat Arun, a riverside pagoda gilded in the first light, they find Alan enthroned upon a high platform, presiding over a haphazard blessing ceremony. He doles out Buddha-blessed water and gummy bears with equal solemnity, having assumed the role of spiritual conduit in the midst of their chaos. As the sun crests Thailand's tallest spires, revelation washes over them like monsoon rain. Through a patchwork of flashbacks, Stu's accidental assault on a departing helicopter, Phil's impromptu boxing match with a half-wakeful tuk-tuk driver, Teddy's ill-advised serenade of a ladyboy ensemble, they reconstruct a night so delirious it defies logic. Their missing groom, after all, had stumbled off to secure a final act of devotion for his bride, an offering at the temple, a vow whispered on lotus petals, guided by Alan's accidental enlightenment. Each friend claimed his own misstep as a pivotal act of brotherhood, from Phil's ill-fated attempt to smuggle a baby back into the villa to Stu's frantic tattoo intended to memorialize the night's meaning. In the twilight hush of a riverside ferry, they at last reunite at the temple steps, bear-hugging Teddy as he emerges with his bride's bouquet in hand, eyes filled with tears at the sight of their ragtag procession. The necklace he'd hunted across the city, a simple gold chain found in a monk's prayer beads, clasps at her throat as the group pays homage to fate's absurd mercy. Behind them, Bangkok's skyline shimmers like a promise, neon and stupa spires merging in a tapestry of chaos and calm, of sin and sanctity interwoven in every artery of street and canal. As they drift back towards the villa, laughter bubbles through their exhaustion, a cathartic chorus rising above the roar of boats on the river. They've navigated the wild city's dark corners, outrun regret, and rediscovered the meaning of their bond. Yet, as they settle around a final platter of street vendor pad thai, their playful glances tease one final uncertainty. In the end, some secrets remain best left unsaid, some mysteries too deliciously mad to untangle. The camera pulls back on their silhouetted forms against the river's glittering embrace, leaving us to wonder which part of the night was truly lost, and which part they'd never have it any other way. The morning air in Los Angeles felt heavy with anticipation when Phil, Stu, Alan, and Teddy gathered in the glossy black town car bound for the airport. A few weeks before, they'd survived the debauched aftermath of Las Vegas. Now they faced a new, drier challenge, a pre-wedding brunch in Bangkok for Teddy's second wedding. Stu, eager to atone for his lost tooth and shattered engagement, insisted on a sober reunion, a promise sealed with solemn nods and ironic toasts of sparkling water. Yet as the sun rose over LAX, Phil's knowing smirk and Alan's hopeful grin whispered that a hangover need not ever be fully cured, only postponed. Immigration was a breeze, passports stamped in neat ink, as the men emerged into Bangkok's humid embrace. The traffic roared like a living beast, tuk-tuks weaving past tuk-tuks, neon signs flickering above street-side vendors hawking spicy soups and fried squid on sticks. Phil inhaled the heady perfume of lemongrass and exhaust, declaring it the perfect tonic for their self-imposed restraint. Alan, clutching a beaded amulet against his chest, gifted by the Bangkok Hilton concierge, strode ahead with the earnest conviction of a man on a pilgrimage. Stu, ever the practical one, consulted his Pillsbury country dentist-ordered itinerary, brunch at 10 a.m., rehearsal dinner dry run at noon, and a strict lights out by 2 o'clock to guard against jet-lag temptation. They arrived at the Riverside Villa, a banana leaf oasis perched over the Chao Phraya. Whitewashed walls and polished teak floors gleamed in the early light, and gongs hidden in alcoves murmured soft invitations to serenity. Their host, a close friend of Teddy's fiancée, floated about in pale silks, arranging orchid leis and offering mango and rice canapés that left sticky fingerprints on Phil's blazer. Under the tropic sun, the wedding party posed for photographs, laughter floating like lanterns as they recreated poses from the first film. Phil draping an uncle's arm, Stu fanning himself anxiously, Alan peering through his hands with wide-eyed wonder. Yet beneath the laughter lay the flicker of unease that only those who've stared into the abyss of their own chaos can know. Phil realized mid-snack that he'd left the Club Doc survival kit, aspirin, Pepto pills, crumpled Xanax prescription, back at the hotel. Stu fingered a phantom dagger in his jaw, wary of Bulgari's latest dental drilling because memories of Vegas had left him jumpy at the sign of any needle. And Alan? Well, Alan simply looked radiant in the sun, unaware that his good intentions might once again set the stage for bedlam. That evening, the groomsmen gathered on the villa's rooftop terrace for a mocktail mixer. Virgin mojitos tinkling in tall glasses, lime wheels perched like lifebuoys on the edge. The city lights flickered below, skyscrapers tipped with neon and stupa spires dawned in the distance, beckoning them into unknown revels. Teddy raised his glass in a toast, to sobriety, to second chances, to friends who'd weather any storm or hangover, for one another. In unison, they touched ice cubes and laughed, each man sharing a secret vow to stay on the straight and narrow. But the night air did its work. Alan's eyes fluttered shut far too often, lulled by the rhythmic chant of crickets and distant horns. Phil, restless as ever, wandered toward a cluster of Thai silk lanterns, their dahlias of color flickering in the tropical breeze. Stu, overcome by the day's anticipation, sank into a lounge chair and exhaled practice wedding vows under his breath. Teddy, a model of composure, pinched a mint leaf between thumb and forefinger, oblivious to how swiftly fortune can turn. When dawn crept over the horizon, it found our quartet bathed in the bruised aftermath of the evening's unspoken indulgences. The villa lay silent, as though holding its breath, while inside lay bodies splayed like discarded puppets. Phil awoke on a swaying rattan daybed, his head pounding in dizzying staccato, unsure if reality bent or his skull did. Stu, tangled in the linen of a four-poster bed, winced at a fresh puncture wound by his ear, lips split and bleeding, his toothbrush nowhere to be found. Alan sat cross-legged in a sunken sofa, clutching what looked for a moment like a life-preserver ring. Only it was a rubber chicken, its beady eyes accusing him of last night's misdeeds. And Teddy? He was gone. The villa's once pristine walls wore new badges of chaos. Overturned pots, shards of gilded picture frames, and in the kitchen a single rubber glove clinging to the faucet like a death shroud. No sign of the bride's bouquet, no pastel wedding invitation, only an ominous black marker scrawl on the fridge, "Find Doug." It was the same cryptic message scrawled in Vegas, now updated in Bangkok's humid assault. Phil's stomach turned as he recalled that Doug, Teddy's brother, had agreed to stay sober, fetch the groom in Manila if need be. Yet here was no sign of Doug, and no sign of Teddy, the unwavering center of their shared vows. First order of business, trace the night's steps. They found flip-flops by the pool, each bearing footprints that led away from the villa's wrought-iron gates. Phil, now moving with the slurred precision of a man half-dead, fished for his phone only to discover it replaced by a single shot glass etched with Thai script. Stu, rummaging through coat pockets, unearthed a faded Polaroid, the four of them, grinning like fools, posing before a neon tattoo parlor sign reading, "Monkey Business." Alan, eyes wide with dawning realization, pointed to his chest, where a fresh haphazard tattoo spelled out a single word in Thai, "Grace," its lettering smeared like wet ink. Their quest began at the tattoo parlor. Rickety stairs creaked beneath their weight, neon dripping onto each step. The door swung open to reveal a half-dozen tattoo guns plugged in like desk lamps, buzzing with seduction. The artist, a stoic sailor of indeterminate origin, offered them lukewarm tea as he traced his fingers along Alan's misspelled mantra. He shook his head and murmured a single phrase, "You saw the monk." The monk, they realized, had been the last strong name in their frayed memories, the one sober thread that might reel them back from this haze. Clutching their newfound clue, they stumbled toward the Grand Palace, the city's ornate crown jewel of gilded spires and marble courtyards. Tourists in flip-flops and sweat-soaked shirts gawked as four gaunt foreigners zigzagged through the gates, beards unkempt, clothes mismatched. Inside, the monk waited beneath a pagoda, robes tucked to reveal a glimmering shiner on his cheek. He nodded gravely, pointing them toward the Chao Phraya River, home of the fishermen, was all he would say. No hint of path or promise, only the gentle click of his prayer beads as he faded into shadow. They found themselves at the water's edge, beneath slatted piers where long-tailed boats rocked like cradle tugs. Phil frantically hailed the first boatman, offering wads of cash for passage upriver to Khao San Road. Stu, clutching a map stolen from the villa library, traced lines to a rumored guest house. Alan, determined to unearth the moral compass in their madness, summoned the wind to carry their prayers to the river's spirits. As oars splashed and engines whined, the skyline of Bangkok melted into a horizon of temples and lantern-lit hope. Yet fear gleamed in each man's eye. What awaited at journey's end? A snatched groom, a trapped brother, or a truth more absurd than any hangover? Arriving at the canal's mouth, they disembarked onto a rickety dock where a cluster of stray dogs cowered beneath a flickering bulb. Muffled music rumbled from an alley, followed by muffled laughter and strains of a karaoke ballad. They recognized the melody from Alan's last memory, "My Heart Will Go On," belted by Teddy's unremarkable baritone. Hearts pounding, they pressed toward the sound, stepping over incense coils and overturned offerings until they reached a dilapidated shophouse with sliding doors ajar. Inside, they found a scattering of wedding invites, each one neatly lined on a long table, Tiffany blue bows still tied in place. In the center sat Doug, donning a silk robe and savoring a bowl of pho. Doug looked up with an apologetic grin. He slid the bowl toward Stu. "It's no turkey, but it's a strong hangover cure." Relief and suspicion wove through their shared glare as the hum of last night's revelry returned in fragmented echoes, distant horns, a cymbal crash of unremembered moments, and faintly, Teddy's voiced vow to protect them from themselves. Just as Stu began to question how Doug ended up here instead of on standby for the groom, a door behind them creaked open with ominous weight. The next chapter of their Bangkok odyssey loomed in the threshold's shadow, waiting to unfold. Rain slicked the Bangkok pavement as the four friends, Phil, Stu, Alan, and Doug, staggered from the narrow alleyway into a neon haze of sweatshops and street vendors, each clutching a morsel of hope and a handful of decadent faux broth. They had thought this scrappy shophouse of invitations and noodles was the end of their quest, but Doug's apologetic grin dissolved the instant Teddy's name failed to appear among the neatly handwritten guest list. Instead, they found a set of ornate, engraved silver cufflinks and a cryptic note taped to the back of the menu. "If you want Teddy, go south to the Elephant Stables. P.S. Don't trust the first person you meet." Cursing their exhaustion, they set off through the labyrinth of backstreets, their path illuminated by swaying bulb lanterns and the distant rumble of the river. Phil led the charge, his swagger tempered by the realization that their last fiasco had once again left them clueless and directionless. Stu, now sporting a purple bruise beneath his jaw that throbbed with every syllable of "what fo," scanned hastily drawn maps for any hint of stables. Alan, humming "Eye of the Tiger" under his breath, marched with the single-minded conviction of a man convinced his amulet held the power to guide them through any trial. Doug trudged behind, balancing a half-eaten bowl of pho, his mind still reeling from the betrayal of the wedding list. They arrived at a sprawling compound where massive gray beasts swayed in shackles beneath banyan trees, their trunks pluming dust into the humid twilight. Mushers barked orders in Thai while tourists lined up for elephant selfies. A tall, gaunt caretaker with a single gold tooth and a poker face greeted the men. He introduced himself only as Ghost, nodding once at their arrival. No further words, just a silent gesture to follow him deeper into the pens where elephants fussed with decorative blankets and the air smelled of hay mixed with the faintest hint of something smoky, perhaps the incense burning at a nearby shrine. In that stifling gloom, the caretaker paused beside an elephant who blinked beneath a scarred trunk. Upon closer inspection, the men realized what had drawn their attention. Dangling from the elephant's chain was Teddy's wedding ring, its band scratched and dented. Relief surged through the group as they reached for it, but Ghost's single gold-toothed smile warned them that this recovery would not be the end of the road. He pointed across the compound toward a distant pagoda, a silhouette of tiered roofs crowned with gilded finials, and produced a tarnished key from beneath his ragged sleeve. "The barn," he whispered in fractured English, pocketing the ring and key before vanishing among the lumbering herd. Armed with the ring's key and newfound resolve, they waded through the pens and crossed a small canal via a rickety footbridge planked with bamboo. The moon's reflection on the water trembled as though echoing their trembling hearts. On the far side stood a dilapidated barn marked by peeling red paint and a half-collapsed roof. The moon's reflection on the water trembled as though echoing their trembling hearts. On the far side stood a dilapidated barn marked by peeling red paint and a half-collapsed roof. Stu, his face a bruise of purple and yellow, hesitated at the threshold, flashlights uncovering crates of rice husks and old water buckets. Alan, trembling with excitement, flicked the key into the lock and pushed open the door. A rush of stale air and the distant squeal of a chained animal greeted them. Inside, the beam of Phil's flashlight revealed Teddy strapped to a rickety wooden chair, fully conscious and blinking against the harsh glare. His shirt was torn at the collar, and in his lap rested a tattoo gun, its needle hanging dangerously close to the skin. Across the floor lay a cache of pills, smuggled bourbon, and a half-eaten jar of peanut butter. Teddy's gaze sharpened upon seeing them, relief flooding his features. "I thought I'd never get out," he rasped, jerking against his bonds until the chair's legs creaked. Doug lunged to untie the ropes, his hands fumbling as the knife he unearthed from his pocket slipped from his grasp, clattering against the dirt floor. Just as Phil helped Teddy to his feet, the barn doors burst open and a chorus of shouts exploded in the night air. Mr. Chang's private security team, illuminated by torches, surrounded them. At the head of the mob stood Mr. Chang himself, the unblinking poker boss whose unfinished game at the Monkey Business Club had first set their escapade in motion. He wore a crisply tailored suit despite the desert humidity, folding his arms across his chest with the confidence of a man who never missed his mark. "You Americans never learn," he intoned, nodding toward Teddy's throne of straw. "You owe me your groom and your lives." His henchmen surged forward, and for a terrifying moment the men feared this was their last scene. Luck, however, was not yet spent. Alan, with a crazed gleam in his eye, dashed for the peanut butter jar. He hurled its sticky contents at the oncoming guards, who slipped and cursed as they landed in puddles of sludge. Amid the chaos, Stu scooped up the pistol he'd found in Teddy's lap, carefully unloaded but packed with a ceremonial bullet, and fired it as a warning shot. The walls rattled. Charges were shouted in Cantonese at Chong, and the guards hesitated, their confidence wavering. Phil, spotting a small window high in the wall, vaulted onto Teddy's shoulders, scrambling upward to pry the pane free. He crawled out into the night, motioning for the others to follow. Their escape was a blur of sprinting past perturbed elephants and startled beaver trappers who only moments ago had served as tourist guides. Phil kicked open the barn door, and they spilled into the compound, their footsteps echoing against the pounding rain that had begun. Above them, the barn collapsed with a groan, sending dust and splinters into the air in a final punctuation. Chang's furious roar faded behind them as they sprinted for the footbridge, leaping across slippery bamboo poles, ducking under low-hanging leaves that swatted at their rain-soaked faces. By the time they reached the main road, the darkness had given way to the rain's drumming crescendo. A battered motorcycle, abandoned at the riverside thoroughfare, offered a last-mile salvation. Alan straddled the seat, Phil mounted behind him with Teddy ducking low behind a makeshift windshield of hope and despair melded in his eyes. Stu, steadying the rear, coaxed the engine to life, its rasp a promise and a prayer. They tore away down the flooded street, headlights cutting through the gale spray, tuk-tuks and stray dogs scattering like ghosts at their approach. Miles flashed past in a neon carousel of life, as though Bangkok itself held its breath for their reunion. They burst into the villa's courtyard just as the wedding ceremony reached its solemn apex. Clad in a traditional Thai groom's outfit, Doug stood at the altar still clutching his bowl of pho, having been mistaken for the bridal party's master of ceremonies throughout the day. The clergy paused, golden parasols hovered, and a hush fell over family and friends. With the river's murmur beneath them and the storm raging overhead, Teddy raced forward, cufflinks in hand, and bound his vows once more, this time with the ring forged in elephant pens and delivered through the wash of monsoon rain. As they slipped back into the villa's reclaimed warmth, Alan collapsed onto the bamboo daybed, his eyes fluttering shut in tired triumph. Phil tossed his soaked blazer over a chair, grinning wildly at the sight of the broken invitations still taped to the wall. Stu held his jaw, marveling at the swelling echo of his own echoing laughter, his dental toolkit now abandoned on the terrace. Doug finally slurped the last of his pork broth, as though tasting victory for the first time. Outside, the storm raged on, but within the villa's walls, a quiet celebration hummed with shared relief. In the final moments before departure, they posed once more for photographs. 4 friends bound by absurdity and redemption, each bearing souvenirs of their whirling odyssey. A stray elephant hair stuck in Phil's cuff, a scarred cufflink on Stu's lapel, a chicken feather tucked behind Alan's ear, and Doug's ever-present bowl of pho, now a talisman for survival. As the town car pulled away under receding skies, Bangkok's illuminated skyline dwindled in the rearview mirror, leaving them to chart new territory. Homeward, wiser, and forever changed by the night, they reclaimed their brother from the edge of folly and fate. Phil stands at the heart of the storm with that rakish grin of his, a swagger born of too many scrapes turned to laughter. He is the impetuous core of every misadventure, the one who lights the fuse with a half-laugh and a confident flick of the wrist. Beneath that devil-may-care exterior, though, lies a fierce loyalty. When Stu's panic sends them on wild goose chases and Alan's sense of wonder drags them into one questionable decision after another, Phil shoulders the blame with a grin, never once shirking the mantle of ringleader. In the first morning light, as the 4 men emerge from the villa's wrecked tranquility, it is Phil who nudges the others forward with jests about déjà vu, gentlemen, his velvet voice teasing weary nerves into anticipation. Yet by the time they stand ankle-deep in elephant pens, Phil's eyes carry a flicker of guilt, proof that his bravado is an armor shelling the Brotherhood's quiet heart. His jokes, razor-sharp, perfectly timed, do more than punctuate the film's lunacy. They reveal a man perpetually perched on the edge of responsibility. When Alan's newborn companion in the back of the taxi turns out to be a crying baby, it is Phil who coaxes rational thought from chaos, reaching for a bottle of milk with surprising tenderness. In those moments, the leader's veneer thins, exposing a deeper truth. Phil is the axis around which friendship turns, willing to bear the fallout of every fiasco so that his friends might find their way home. And yet, the night's misadventures show us that even leaders must sometimes lose their way before finding their compass once more. Stu, by contrast, wears anxiety like a cuff around his wrist, endlessly self-correcting, ever fearful of the next misstep. He embodies the film's cautionary chord, the voice of reason drowned by the roar of misadventure. His reflection in Bangkok's glass skyscrapers looks back at him haunted, missing tooth, freshly split lip, trousers stained with last night's bourbon, and every detail a testament to his attempts at control undone. Yet amid the fear and fumbling, Stu reveals a hidden reservoir of courage. When the stroke of fortune strands him before an off-duty helicopter pilot, he steels himself enough to plead for their lives, his voice catching on the word, please. In those moments of vulnerability, Stu's bold attempt to negotiate with fate, we see his heart, a shapeable thing, fraying at the edges yet capable of surprising resilience. Throughout their odyssey, Stu's dental kit becomes his talisman, an odd collection of instruments that he wields with both precision and panic. It is no accident that, in the final scenes, it rattles against the marble jungle floor like an echo of his own fractured composure. He grows, too, from fearful dentist to something resembling a stunt coordinator's apprentice, willing to swing from ladders, navigate seedy alleyways, and endure the shame of his own bad decisions. By the moment Teddy reclips the wedding ring onto his finger, Stu stands battered but unbowed, a man who has learned that life's sharpest drills sometimes carve out the truest connections. Then there is Alan, eternal heart of the pack, whose wide-eyed innocence ignites both calamity and compassion. The world is his playground, each neon sign a lantern of possibility, each stray animal a confidant. While Phil charts their blunders with devilish pride and Stu trembles at every misfire, Alan laughs in the face of dread, trundling forward with a beatific grin and an unshakable faith that kindness will guide them. It is Alan who befriends Bangkok street children with the solemnity of a saint, passing out sugar-coated bars from his shirt pocket as though they were gospel. And when he emerges from the tattoo parlor sporting a cryptic mantra, he beams at the others as though he has unlocked the secrets of the universe. Yet in Alan's earnestness lies his power, a reminder that amid folly, innocence can be the sharpest compass. When the final ambush strikes in the elephant stables, it is Alan who flings peanut butter into the guards' faces, turning his most absurd impulse into a lifeline. That gesture, equal parts lunacy and salvation, captures his essence. He does not wish harm. He simply acts on instinct, oblivious to convention. His friendship is a force of nature, untamed, and in the world's harshest alleyways, that wild spirit becomes a lifebelt against despair. Through Alan's eyes, we rediscover wonder in every shattered ornament and awaken gratitude for the smallest acts of grace. Teddy, the groom at the center of their chaos, embodies the story's tender nexus of fear and hope. His first marriage ended in ruin, a fact he masks with polite smiles and practiced gallantry. His second wedding, he hopes, will be different, ritual as redemption. Yet the moment he disappears beneath pagoda shadows, clinics of dread bloom in his friends' hearts. How fragile, they realize, is the promise of "I do" when tested by an untamed night. When he finally emerges, clutching a shimmering strand of lotus petals and sporting a wobbly cufflink, Teddy's eyes glisten with both relief and newfound clarity. In his humble bouquets and nervous vows, we see the quietest courage, to risk one's heart again, no matter how many times it has been shattered. Teddy's metamorphosis from nervous bridegroom to defiant survivor unfolds in small crescendos. Each recovered memento, his ring from the elephant's chain, the cufflinks in the tattooed barn, threads his story back together, weaving fractured promise into resilient hope. In the film's final tableau, as the four brothers, man by choice if not by blood, gather beneath the villa's reclaimed warmth, Teddy's gaze lingers on the river's soft wake, as though contemplating the currents that brought them here. His redemption is not just the marriage he reclaims, but the brotherhood its trials have forged. Doug, often mistaken for a peripheral figure, proves himself the unexpected linchpin in their odyssey. His first appearance as the impromptu MC at the wedding rehearsal, holding that phantom bowl of pho, paints him as a side act, comic relief in linen. Yet when Stu, Phil, and Alan chase clues across the city, it is Doug's calm reassurance, his rock-steady presence, that grounds them. He must navigate each spasm of chaos with silent authority, his every "it's okay" guise echoing like a lifeline across the urban sprawl. In the final act, as they face Mr. Chang's henchmen in the elephant barn, Doug stands beside his friends, not as a burden but as a bulwark, proof that quiet souls can anchor even the wildest storms. Teddy's fiancée, though more spectre than player in this tumult, exerts her own gravity. In the pale light of the villa's ruined courtyard, her waiting form captures the stakes of their saga, the promise that love can be strained by absurdity but never extinguished. Each frantic text they send her, each half-remembered apology, hums with her voice, reminding us that romance survives in the echo of misplaced vows and recovery from the brink of disaster. Finally, the city itself, the neon arteries of Bangkok, emerges as a character of its own. It is both labyrinth and theater, a kaleidoscope of possibilities that swallows hopes whole before revealing hidden paths home. In the moonlit haze of tuk-tuks and temples, the friends forge a brotherhood married in midnight sparks, its bond sealed by the elephant's dusty breath and the scrawl of a black marker. By journey's end, each man carries Bangkok's pulse in his veins, a beat of risk, a breath of wonder, and the whispered promise that even the darkest nights yield to dawn. In this tapestry of calamity and camaraderie, each character shines in relief against the others. Phil's bravado meets Stu's caution, Alan's innocence collides with Doug's quiet strength, Teddy's fragile hope weaves them into unity. Their laughter, ragged and triumphant, rings brighter than Bangkok's neon, for in the end, they learn that family is not defined by blood but by the scars we share and the laughter that follows. And as the final taxi speeds them toward a horizon edged with rice paddies and recollection, they carry with them a revelation as luminous as any wedding ring. That true adventure lies not in perfect plans, but in the unpredictable journey we brave together. Before the first light of dawn spilled across the Bangkok skyline, the skyline itself trembled with a stir of secrets waiting to unfold. In a quiet corner of the city's Grand Palace district, a convoy of tour buses rolled through empty streets, disgorging a stunt team, a camera crew, and more rubber monkeys than any conservationist would approve. They had come to recreate the lunatic grandeur of that fateful night, a night of lost grooms, runaway babies, and tattoos that told stories in Thai when the morning sun finally rose. But long before the cameras began to roll, long before the script's carefully crafted jokes took flight, the film's own oddball spirit began to percolate in whispered rumors and impromptu pranks worthy of its on-screen misfits. It was said that the production's first strange visitor arrived in the shape of a stray macaque, dragging a half-eaten pineapple along the studio lot. A trainee wrangler glimpsed him perched atop a camera dolly, surveying the crew with a smug air as though he, too, understood the absurdity of it all. When the animal finally slipped from the rig and scampered into the nearby lotus pond, the crew took it as an omen. It was as though the city itself had dispatched its own monkey emissary to bless the madness that would ensue. The next morning, a crew of art decorators stumbled upon the pineapple, now brandished as an impromptu center ornament in the production office's break room. No one knew how it got there. No one dared to question the monkey's mysterious message, expect the unexpected. In the executive suites, the green-lit rumor filtered down that the production had paid a premium to secure the opulent Shangri-La villa overlooking the Chao Phraya River. Few realized that beneath its polished teak floors lay a hidden system of drainage pipes designed to channel monsoon runoff. On the very first day of location shooting, a sudden tropical downpour flooded the villa's grounds, sending sound mixers scrambling to shelter their cables and a dozen lights plunging into murky water. The villa's manager, mortified, vowed never to speak of the incident, but crafty Grips later whispered of a midnight séance conducted to appease the water spirits. The irony was not lost. Here, in the city famed for drowning in rain, even the set design seemed to conspire in the plot's watery hijinks. One of the film's oddest twists of fate involved the Burmese python that slithered onto set uninvited. Production designers had imported several small snakes, tame, docile creatures meant for the night market scenes, but none could have foreseen the arrival of a massive 40-foot serpent, its scales still glistening from a nearby river tour that had veered off course. The owner of the boat, mistaking the script's call for authenticity, decided to donate the snake to the production, certain it would enhance the film's grit. When the python first coiled around the hotel's grand column, the cast froze in terror, only to burst into laughter when the wranglers, dripping with sweat, confessed they'd never seen a snake so cooperative. That python cameo found its way into the outtakes reel, a silent testament to the film's appetite for real-world spectacle. Meanwhile, Painter's tape became the unsung hero of continuity. The film's tattoo sequence, where Stu awakens with a fresh inscription on his cheek, required dozens of takes across multiple locations. Each time, the makeup team meticulously traced the Thai characters in oils so vivid they threatened to stain clothing. But script supervisor Jane Mills quickly realized that the actors' flailing limbs and spontaneous pratfalls were smudging the ink in unpredictable ways. Her solution was to map the character onto each actor's face with tiny dots of painter's tape, imperceptible to most cameras but life-saving for continuity. Those discreet markers, hidden beneath the actor's hairline or inside the ear, allowed the tattoo to reappear with uncanny precision. When fans later read interviews about this trick, they marveled that such a low-tech hack could tame the chaos of so many wild takes. Then there was the curious case of the baby wolf cub. In the script, the Tiger King's cub emerges as a fleeting but unforgettable cameo, an allegory of innocence amid havoc. Producers contracted a licensed exotic animal handler who supplied a pup reared by wolves in a remote reserve. The crew built a custom kennel beneath the villa's pool deck, complete with soundproofing and climate control to mimic the cub's native environment. But on the day of filming, the cub, named Sirius by the wranglers, fled through a gust of wind-blown debris, trotting across the villa's courtyard in search of a more interesting audience. Actors chasing the cub improvised an entire chase sequence that survived the first edit, filmed in glorious unplanned slow-mo as Sirius bounded over tiled floors. That sequence, woven into the final cut, became one of the film's most spellbinding moments of unscripted wonder. Not all surprises bore a wild grin. In the hotel spa set, where Alan's euphoria reaches its peak, steam generators pumped thick mist into every corner. On one ill-fated night, the crew miscalculated the ratio, turning the set into a fog so dense that even the high beams of the camera rigs vanished. With visibility near zero, the assistant director called "cut," but the cast, wrapped in sheets and robes, broke into spontaneous ghost stories to pass the time. The resulting camaraderie, captured in off-camera recordings, injected genuine warmth into the final scene, their huddled figures mirroring the real-life unity born from that unplanned spookfest. Behind the scenes, prop masters battled the vicissitudes of tropical pests. The stashes of prop gold bricks, faux items meant to grace the drug cartel's trophy table, became irresistible nesting material for the local gecko population. By midday, small reptiles had nestled within the hollowed cores, peeking through cracks as though auditioning for their own cameo. When the team discovered dozens of geckos wedged between the plastic coins, they spent a full afternoon remolding and sealing the bricks, muttering curses at the clandestine pest invasion. In the final film, eagle-eyed viewers can still catch a lone gecko scampering across the bar set, an accidental testament to the set's living ecosystem. Sound design bore its own share of oddball challenges. The film's climactic elephant stable ambush required blending Rayal elephant trumpets with the roar of Bangkok traffic. Sound editor Frank Patterson collected recordings from a Thai zoo and synced them with field recordings captured near a busy freeway. The result was a surreal soundscape, pachyderm calls echoing alongside motorcycle engines, horns blaring in time with the thunderous footfalls. Critics later praised the sequence for its immersive power, citing it as the rare moment when a film's audio palette felt both authentic and hallucinatory. When asked in a trade interview about the fusion of elephant and engine, Patterson simply grinned and quipped, "We married nature's percussion to man's symphony, and they eloped at midnight." Among the film's wardrobe oddities, nothing proved trickier than Stu's mustache. In the first film, Ed Helms donned a comical soul patch. Here he emerged with a meticulously groomed handlebar mustache that framed every grimace in glorious relief. The producers decided to have it grow naturally for authenticity, a gamble that meant shaving schedules and daily conditioning with specialty wax imported from Switzerland. During one night shoot, the hair care products mysteriously vanished from the trailer, only to be found days later in Alan's pockets. He had believed them to be pocket salves for good luck. Since then, fan tweets have speculated whether Alan's amulet influenced mustache growth, a legend that delighted the mustache's proud caretaker. Editor Brent White often spoke with awe of the Tattoo Tempest, the sequence where Phil's chest bears the incomplete Thai proverb. Multiple takes span 3 days, each capturing variations of the line and angles of Phil's bravado. In post, White found himself drowning in 82 frames of half-finished ink. To stitch the montage into a cohesive flashback, he turned to an unlikely tool. Stop-motion animation software, repurposed to animate the needle's progress. By isolating each tiny shift of the tattoo gun against the skin, he created a seamless illusion of Phil's chest being inked in one unbroken swirl, a digital sleight of hand that no audience ever suspected. For the final flourish, the marketing department cooked up one of the strangest promotions in holiday comedy history. They partnered with a chain of Thai street vendors to offer hangover noodles in a secret menu, a spicy bowl served only if customers recited a line from the trailer. The campaigns rolled out in Bangkok and Los Angeles, linking dueling street food cultures across hemispheres. Reports say the limited edition noodle bowl sold faster than golden tickets, the chefs adding extra chili flakes to replicate the film's incendiary energy. When fans discovered the collaboration, they cheered. Nothing symbolized the global reach of prank-driven comedy like slurping pho infused with a dash of movie magic. Thus, as the credits roll on this tale of woken memories and lost vows, the film's strangest facts shimmer beneath the surface. a stray monkey's gift of pineapple, a python's regal cameo, a python's cameo, a gecko's nesting spree, a runaway baby elephant, and Thai mustache wax heists. Each oddity, woven into the set's living tapestry, echoed the on-screen mayhem, lending the final cut an undercurrent of unlikely authenticity. It's these behind-the-scenes alchemies, the happy accidents, the mischievous intrusions, the wildlife cameos, that remind us no script, no matter how meticulously drafted, can contain the full flourish of real-world eccentricity. And just as the four friends find their way back to Teddy's side, so the audience finds in every whispered legend a deeper love for the unpredictable chaos that made this sequel one of the strangest, funniest, and most unforgettable odysseys in modern comedy lore. Night fell like a velvet curtain over the gilded rooftop bar where Phil, Stu, Alan, and Teddy first raised their glasses to earnest vows and the promise of a sober celebration. In that hushed moment, just before the first fireworks of folly ignited, the film delivered its opening thesis: even the best-laid plans bow to the laws of unpredictable luck. Critics have noted how that rooftop scene functions as narrative seedbed, reminding us that no matter how far we strive to reinvent ourselves, the ghosts of past mistakes linger in neon reflections of cheap beer bottles and abandoned shot glasses. As dawn's haze lifted on that fateful morning, the survivors' bleary-eyed reckoning in the Bangkok villa became more than a moment of comic reveal. It stood as a meditation on consequence. Each overturned cushion and splintered door whispered of debts unpaid, of stumbles yet to be accounted for. Film scholars point to this zero-hour tableau as a masterclass in economy. Without dialogue, the camera lingers on every bruise and bloodstain, weaving an unspoken apology that resonates with anyone who has awakened to regret's cold light. Audience test screenings confirmed the scene's potency. Laughter stalled into gasps as viewers recognized the eerie stillness of personal wreckage masquerading as someone else's joke. Their frantic scramble to find Teddy, armed only with a scattered photograph and a random key, looms large in the film's structural architecture. Every detour through neon-lit alleys and backroom gambling dens becomes a vignette in chaotic brotherhood. Critics have lauded this middle chase as the sequel's bravest gambit. Rather than replicate the Vegas formula beat for beat, the filmmakers transposed their archetypal misfits into a foreign land, layering the plot with new cultural dissonances. The wedding invitations discovered in the seedy shophouse, each inscribed in precise calligraphy, symbolize the friction between the ritual of commitment and the primal need for freedom. When Stu cradles a bamboo slip bearing Teddy's name, critics argue, the scene transcends farce. It becomes an elegy for trust fractured and ultimately reforged. The tattoo parlor's electric hum introduces another key event, one that critics often analyze as the film's thematic fulcrum. Phil's half-finished chest scrawl, rendered in shaky Thai characters, does more than memorialize his blackout. It embodies the scramble to impose meaning on random chaos. In journal articles, reviewers cite how the pulsating neon of the parlor's sign casts colored arcs across Phil's contorted visage, visually echoing his fractured grasp on reality. That moment, they argue, marks the transition from reactive panic to proactive agency. By choosing to ink himself, Phil asserts control over his own muddled narrative, however absurd the medium. Emerging from that parlor, the quartet stumbles into the night market, where the cacophony of haggling vendors and sizzling woks mirrors their internal disarray. Here, the film's sound design earns special praise. The crackle of frying noodles blends with distant tuk-tuk horns, creating an oral tapestry that both immerses viewers and underscores the character's isolation. When Alan's earnest inquiries in broken Thai earn puzzled looks from marketgoers, critics note, we feel the sting of miscommunication, how identity can slip through cultural cracks. Yet that same misstep births unexpected alliances, as minor characters guide them toward their next clue, turning Bangkok's labyrinth into a reluctant accomplice. The encounter at the elephant stables stands as perhaps the strangest cinematic tableau, combining slapstick with surreal wonder. Hundreds of gray colossi sway beneath scented incense, while Phil extracts Teddy's ring from a chain looped through an elephant's trunk. The juxtaposition delights audiences, a comic treasure hunt framed by primordial beasts, but critics delve deeper, suggesting the elephants serve as living metaphors for memory. Majestic, gentle, and prone to sudden stampedes. When the men dash from the compound under a downpour, their silhouettes chased by torchlight, the sequence crystallizes the film's thesis. Redemption often requires charging through the wild heart of chaos, trusting that something noble endures within the tempest. The Barn Rescue, too, earns critical acclaim for its blend of tension and absurdity. As the cagey henchmen close in, the film's editing tightens into breathless rapid cuts, each shattering plank marking a heartbeat. When the rubber chicken flies into the guards' faces, it is more than comedic relief. It symbolizes the victory of playfulness over brutality. Reviewers praise that moment as the apex of visual metaphor. A toy bird disarms armed men, revealing laughter's power as a shield. Scholars have since referenced it as a textbook example of comedy's capacity to illuminate human resilience under duress. In the climactic race back to the villa, the battered motorcycle becomes a vessel of collective urgency. Engine sputters and rain-slicked streets combine into a kinetic ballet that echoes the quartet's battered bond. The camera, mounted low on the rear fender, whips past neon blur, aligning viewers with Stu's panicked grasp at the back of Alan's jacket. Critics often highlight this single shot as the film's most immersive triumph. No Steadicam, no gliding crane, just raw velocity and the unshakable pulse of survival. Upon their return, the resealing of wedding vows beneath battered parasols reads as the emotional zenith. Teddy's simple promise, delivered with a half-crooked grin and a wedding ring inching onto his bride's finger, anchors the narrative in human connection. Here, the film's emotional resonance emerges in full bloom. Forgiveness distilled, imperfections celebrated. Critics point out that this moment trades no cynicism for sentimentality. Instead, it finds authenticity in the embrace of flawed protagonists. Audience reactions confirm the potency. Spontaneous applause once marked the closing credits in midnight screenings, a rare phenomenon reserved for stories that mirror our own messy quests for belonging. In assessing the sequel's impact, box office analysts note its robust opening, nearly $86 million domestically, despite fears that the Vegas formula had run its course. Its success, they argue, lies in the careful expansion of its world. Bangkok's kaleidoscopic chaos offered fresh terrain, yet the core camaraderie remained intact. The film's international grosses, particularly strong in Southeast Asia, underscore its cross-cultural humor. Locals delighted in spotting landmarks even as Western audiences lapped up the exotic misadventures. In global markets, the film's blend of broad comedy and heartfelt moments proved a winning combination, a critical lesson in sequel strategy. Critics remain divided on the sequel's darker edges, a monkey's sinister gaze, the nighttime raids by armed thugs, the sharp pangs of Stu's regret. Some view these elements as tonal missteps, darkening what should be a frothy caper. Others celebrate them as bold strokes, acknowledging that true comedy often springs from shadow. Film noir aficionados have even penned essays likening the adventures to a Buddhist-infused L.A. Confidential, where vice and virtue tango beneath temple spires. In this light, the sequel transcends simple farce, morphing into a bizarre odyssey that probes the limits of male friendship and the persistence of past trauma. Decades on, the film's most enduring legacy graces screensavers and social media memes. Baby Carlos draped in a wool sweater, staring wide-eyed at a half-awake Stu, Doug's unwavering calm as he sips pho, Alan's ecstatic press and pray under a shrine's lantern, Chang's poker boss smirk as he corrals his henchmen. These images endure because they capture comedic gold mined from human folly. The film's critical arc, from initial skepticism to cult status reverence, mirrors the protagonist's own journey through chaos toward redemption. Viewers learn, night after night, that even in our darkest stupors, bonds can revive, vows can be reclaimed, and laughter can light the way home. Thus, in every battered ring, every stray tattoo, every trumpeting elephant, the film weaves a tapestry of misadventure that resonates far beyond its punchlines. Its key events, the Villa Awakening, the Tattooist Shrine, the Elephant Pen Showdown, the barn escape, and the riotous motorcycle dash, serve as chapters in an odyssey of friendship tested by farce. Critically, these moments fuse slapstick with symbolism, revealing that beneath the absurdity lies a profound meditation on memory, loyalty, and the fragile art of second chances. And as the credits roll on yet another wild night, we carry forward its promise, that in every leap into the unknown, laughter waits on the other side, ready to guide us home. Before the sun had climbed above the gilded spires of Bangkok's skyline, a caravan of production trucks rolled through the night, brimming with crates of camera equipment, lighting rigs, and wardrobe trunks stamped with cryptic Thai symbols. It was in these pre-dawn hours that the makers of the sequel to the infamous bachelor party caper began sculpting a new realm of organized chaos. The choice of Bangkok was as much a creative leap as a logistical nightmare. Exotic temples and neon night markets promised fresh backdrops, but they also demanded a film crew versed in local regulations and ready for tropical surprises. Permits had to be secured months in advance, with local fixers translating bureaucratic whims into workable schedules. When the first cargo containers arrived, customs officials inspected each pink rubber chicken and every sequined capsule toy destined to pepper the nightclub scenes, consigning them to a warehouse until the final paperwork was signed. On set, the production designer faced the monumental task of reconceiving the lavish villa from the first film as a Bangkok riverfront palace. Drawing inspiration from Thai teak architecture, ornate lacquer panels, and silk drapery, the team built a facade on a Hollywood backlit that concealed tankers of cooling water beneath its whitewashed terraces. During one evening's shoot, a sudden heat wave sent temperatures soaring beyond city records. With the mercury cracking 105, the grip department rigged misting fans around the courtyard set, bathing actors in a subaqueous fog that shimmered in the lights. While the cooling effect was a godsend, the mist also triggered a minor electrical fire when a stray droplet landed on a hot ballast lamp. Panicked gaffers dove for fire extinguishers, and within minutes the blaze was snuffed without halting the night's work. That near disaster lent the scene an unexpected authenticity. Actors, swaggering with drenched hair and gleaming skin, delivered their lines with heat-fueled fervor. The villa's opulent interiors concealed their own web of complexity. Set decorator Marge Perkins spent weeks sourcing authentic Thai antiques, hand-carved Buddha statues, silk-covered floor pillows, and lacquered tea tables with mother-of-pearl inlays. On day one of these priceless side tables collapsed under the weight of a cast member's handbag, cracking through 3 layers of hardwood to reveal the plywood beneath. Perkins, mortified, rushed to restore the ornate piece before the next take. In the process, she discovered that local craftsmen had glued the veneer so thickly that they had effectively created a time capsule. Underneath the shattered inlays lay faded newspaper clippings from 1978, offering an accidental peek into the villa's previous life as a colonial guesthouse. The clippings found their way into a bonus feature, delighting fans who scanned headlines about Thai pop stars and vintage sports. Wardrobe presented its own labyrinth of challenges. The film's script called for an explosion of street market chaos, characters wearing everything from silk sarongs to motorcycle helmets adorned with sequins. Costume designer Christine Bach assembled a fleet of wardrobes trailers festooned with hangers labeled in both English and Thai. She imported fabric swatches, vibrant batiks, shimmering lame, embroidered brocades, and partnered with local tailors to create bespoke jackets for the leads. The decision to have Ed Helms grow a handlebar mustache naturally meant he spent weeks in Toronto before shooting, coaxing each whisker into place with proprietary wax formulas imported from Europe. On set, the mustache became a magnet for curious geckos, who mistook the residue of styling gel for insect larvae, leading costume techs on midnight hunts through the trailer. The gecko incidents became so notorious that a behind-the-scenes blooper reel featured a time-lapse of Helms trying to repel the tiny lizards with mock indignation. Filming in Bangkok's crowded streets demanded stealth and precision. For the night market chase, the team closed off an entire block of soys, rerouting traffic while deploying mobile lighting towers to mimic the neon glow of vendor stalls. Extras, local residents hired en masse, wove through the set in authentic street food garb, hawking chilies and coconut pancakes between takes. A bilingual assistant director coached them in English catchphrases, "last tuk-tuk," and "try the fish balls." Lines that felt at once natural and delightfully out of context. Amid the controlled chaos, real taxis and songthaws would slip through camera barriers, requiring gaffers to sprint into the frame and shoo them away, only for the drivers to laugh at the absurdity. One taxi driver, enchanted by the production, offered free rides for the next week in exchange for an extra credit cameo, a deal that the producers gladly seized. The elephant sequence stands as one of the film's most elaborate set pieces. Producers contracted a reputable elephant sanctuary outside the city, relocating an entire herd of pachyderms to the backlit. Animal wranglers constructed a sprawling enclosure replete with mud pools and fresh banana rafts. On the day of shooting, the elephants behaved impeccably, until they caught the scent of the prop flour used to simulate dust. Commissaries had provided too much dried coconut meat, and the elephants mistook the flour paneling for treats, nosing through props until the mud mixture turned to pancake batter. The ensuing deluge of slick elephant mud rendered the set a treacherous slip and slide, sending crew members into one another in lectures of laughter. The director embraced the mess, ordering more takes to capture the creature's gleeful mud mosh. The sequence's final cut overlays the blinking lights with a gentle trombone motif, its playfulness emblematic of the crew's willingness to turn error into enchantment. Sound design for the elephant barn became a masterclass in layering. Sound editor Frank Patterson recorded real pachyderm calls at the sanctuary, capturing both the low-frequency rumbles and the rapid trumpeting bursts. These were blended with hydrophone recordings of whales off the coast of Phuket, an uncanny pairing that lent elephant trumpets an otherworldly resonance. To heighten tension during the escape sequence, he wove in muffled reverberations of Bangkok's passing trains, recorded overnight on the elevated Sukhumvit line. The result was a soundscape that felt both elemental and deeply urban, a testament to the city's capacity to swallow the wild and regurgitate it in cinematic splendor. Editor Brent White faced a unique puzzle when assembling the tattoo parody. Multiple camera units captured overlapping takes of Phil's chest being inked, but continuity issues abounded. One take showed the script's Thai characters backward, another mistimed the needle's hum. White enlisted stop-motion animation software, an unusual tool for a mainstream comedy, to align each micro-movement of the tattoo machine with Phil's chest in reflexively perfect progression. The final montage plays as a single, unbroken insertion, a shimmering testament to digital ingenuity. Fans later exhumed forum posts marveling at the smoothest tattoo scene in film history, unaware that the illusion rested on pixel-pushing wizardry hidden in White's cutting room. As principal photography drew to a close, the cast and crew gathered for a final, soggy celebration beneath the studio's rain machines, activated one last time to cover an over-remarkable day of exterior pickups. Drinks were served in green coconut shells plucked from nearby stands, and a band of local musicians invaded the buffet, draping Mardi Gras-style beads around actors' necks as they chanted Thai folk jams. Director Todd Phillips raised a conch shell trumpet to summon them to a group photo, its blast sending spray across the courtyard in a final, foamy exclamation. That photo, cast and crew glistening under faux rain, elephants lurking in the background, became the film's emblem of collaborative madness, printed on commemorative posters and auctioned for charity. Even the film's promotional blitz bore the stamp of unintended spectacle. Marketing flyers featured a QR code promising hidden scenes in the elephant's eyes, a playful tease that actually linked to backstage footage of wranglers coaxing the python actor off the soundstage. Street team actors dressed as drunks in sequin jackets hand-shuffled between sidewalk vendors, performing improv riffs that cracked up bystanders before revealing their free tickets. The buzz crescendoed when booth operators at Comic-Con served Tiger King shots, an homage to the film's python cameo, mixing tequila and lime in snake-patterned shot glasses, each sold out within 5 minutes. In the end, the film's production was as riotous and unpredictable as its storyline. From runaway snakes to python cameos, from gecko invasion to chocolate-scented fire extinguishers, each behind-the-scenes episode reinforced the central tenet, that magic often emerges from mishaps. The cast would later toast that truth in interviews, Chevy Chase recalling the pineapple-pilfering macaque, Ed Helms swearing his mustache gel was the worst lizard attractant known to science, and Justin Bartha tipping a bowl of pho over his shirt in tribute to Doug's impromptu heroics. These tales, woven into the film's mythology, remind us that beyond every scripted punchline lies a universe of human improvisation, where mistakes bloom into miracles under the unlikeliest of spotlights. That, perhaps, is the greatest fun fact of all. In the world of sequels, reality might just outshine the script. The air in Bangkok drips with humidity, each breath a promise of heat and mischief as the four friends step off their chartered jet onto the sun-baked tarmac. They emerge into a city that hums with 1,000 conversations, tuk-tuks snarling in traffic's embrace, the distant clang of temple bells, vendors peddling chili-kissed noodles in alleyway stalls suffused with lantern glow. This is no polished wedding destination but a living tapestry of contrasts, gilded pagodas perched beside neon graffiti, golden stupas glowing against steel-framed high-rises, the scent of incense drifting through drifts of exhaust. It is here, amid the sensory crescendo, that the film unspools its chaotic odyssey, casting the familiar quartet into a realm where every alleyway holds the echo of their own laughter and the whisper of consequences yet to unfold. They emerge into a city that hums with 1,000 conversations, tuk-tuks snarling in traffic's embrace, the distant clang of temple bells, vendors peddling chili-kissed noodles in alleyway stalls suffused with lantern glow. This is no polished wedding destination but a living tapestry of contrasts, gilded pagodas perched beside neon graffiti, golden stupas glowing against steel-framed high-rises, the scent of incense drifting through drifts of exhaust. It is here, amid the sensory crescendo, that the film unspools its chaotic odyssey, casting the familiar quartet into a realm where every alleyway holds the echo of their own laughter and the whisper of consequences yet to unfold. Their first refuge is a riverside villa that seems born of tropical fantasy. Whitewashed walls rising from teak decks, shuttered windows painted in jade green, and overhanging palms shading cushioned daybeds where mangosteen cocktails glint in morning light. The villa's facade reflects in the Chao Phraya's gentle current, turning each wavelet into a shimmering mosaic of sky and stone. Satellite dishes perch awkwardly on terracotta roofs, a reminder that even paradise yields to modern demands. Inside, silk tapestries embroidered with mythic Naga serpents line the hallways, their scales catching sunbeams in flickering patterns, while orchid arrangements festoon marble tables like fragrant confetti. It is a stage set for celebration yet charged with irony. How, within these gates of luxury, might trust unravel and every well-laid plan slip into farce? As night descends, the villa's courtyard blossoms into an incandescent theater. Paper lanterns dangle from wrought iron arches, their soft luminescence painting palms in rosy hues. Neighbors peek over ornate stucco walls, drawn by the promise of wedding revels. The camera traces their shadows in a wide tracking shot, emphasizing how the villa becomes both stage and prison, a gilded cage where secrets ferment in the press of tropical air. In this prelude, cinematographer Lawrence sure laces warm ambers with tropical blues, creating a palette that bathes the cast in the glow of impending hilarity. The film's true metamorphosis occurs at twilight, when the friends venture into Bangkok's underbelly. A handheld camera follows them through labyrinthine backstreets, where neon signs in elegant Thai script flicker above stalls selling grilled sardines and paper lanterns swaying in the humid breeze. Steam coils from street food carts like incense for the urban gods as rain clouds gather overhead. The lens dips low to capture puddles that mirror a fractured sky, tracking reflections of the protagonists as they stumble through this kaleidoscopic maze. Each glistening cobblestone becomes a mirror to their shame and hope, every graffiti-scarred wall a billboard for their blundered brio. One of the most arresting tableaus unfolds in a moonlit courtyard by a local temple. Lanterns float across lotus ponds, tethered to wooden rafts by silk ribbons. Monks in saffron robes drift among marble columns, their chants drifting like incense through the camera's telephoto lens. In the distance, the party's frantic search for a missing bridegroom bleeds into this sacred space, creating a collision of the profane and the divine. The camera lingers on clothes UPS of moss-clad stone Buddhas, their serenely closed eyes contrasting with the quartet's frantic glances, a visual metaphor for the divide between human folly and silent enlightenment. That temple scene yields to the pachydermal grandeur of the elephant compound. Here, cinematography swells into majestic scope. Wide lenses capture herds of gray leviathans lumbering beneath frangipani trees, their skin patterned in mud and mosaic. The camera soars above their backs in a drone shot that transforms the cramped set into a phantom savanna, where the protagonists become mouse-sized flakes in a vast tapestry of ancient biology. With every trumpet and dusty dust kick, the film reminds us that, in the natural world's slow rhythms, our man-made disasters seem both trivial and profound. The elephant pens give way to the decrepit barn, a red clay relic at the river's edge, vines snaking through broken beams. The camera shifts to handheld close UPS, capturing the flicker of torchlight on weathered wood and the actors' faces etched with panic. Each creak of floorboards becomes a staccato in the score, a drumbeat of imminent peril. The barn's claustrophobic framing, tight angles, low ceilings, mottled shadows, mirrors the friends' constricted options as they face unscrupulous thugs and the creeping realization that good intentions can lead one down the darkest of paths. Rain returns for the final chase through Bangkok's nighttime arteries. A motorcycle's taillight blooms red in Sher's wide-angle lens as the protagonists hurtle past neon prisms and glistening storefront glass. The camera hitches to the bike's tail, jostling with every pothole, every swerve, embedding viewers in the heart of the chaos. In rapid-cut interludes, the city's skyline morphs into an electric heartbeat, staccato flashes of temple lights, the blur of tuk-tuks, the pulse of traffic jams, underscoring how escape hinges on velocity as much as wit. Throughout, sound design binds the film's visual tapestry into a living organism. Night market symphonies, sizzling walks, haggling vendors, laughter, melt into the reverberation of temple gongs. Elephant calls rattle through cavernous speakers, transmuting into both percussive punctuation and mournful refrain. When thunder rolls over the city's skyscrapers, it isn't mere weather but a bass drum heralding climax. Danny Elfman's score weaves between these natural cadences, his Celesta motif evoking the character's dizzy wonder while strings swell to mirror their mounting stakes. Editing stitches these disparate landscapes into a single relentless roller coaster. Long takes that cradle camaraderie, punctuated by whip cuts that jolt us into the next trial. A dissolving transition from the villa's moonlit serenity to the tattoo parlor's strobing neon signals the hero's descent into altered realities. In crosscuts, we glimpse Stewart's frantic pleas, Phil's pained concentration under the needle, Alan's delighted oblivion, and Teddy's distant prayers, each reaction a mirror fragment of the film's kaleidoscopic tone. Production design extends beyond structures into the minutiae that saturate each frame. Fish-scale tiles in the villa's spa, ceramic naga heads snaking along garden walls, riotous slices of jackfruit glistening on food carts. These details enrich each shot with local flavor, grounding the film's absurdity in palpable authenticity. When Phil slips on a banana peel in the market, his pratfall lands in a puddle glittering with floating petals, a visual echo of the lotus ponds, tying his ruin back to the film's spiritual undertow. Costume, too, plays a silent role. The men's tropical linens clash with the saturated backdrop, rendering each stained collar and ripped cuff a badge of honor. Edgier scenes call for leather jackets and faded graphic tees, their worn threads absorbing sweat and tension. Extras don vibrant sarongs and gold-threaded scarves, so that every background plate becomes a tapestry of color. The result is a visual feast where every passerby enhances the protagonist's sense of displacement and wonder. In closing, the film's settings and cinematic elements become co-conspirators in the narrative's carnival. From marble-flecked courtyards to temple courtyards of stone and silk, from elephant kingdoms to flooded back alleys, each locale infuses the story with a unique cadence. Joy, dread, reverence, and chaos. Lenses calibrate the intimacy of human fear and the vastness of urban wilds. Lights choreograph mood shifts from warm amber to icy moonlit blue. Sound captures the city's polyphonic orchestra of delight and danger. Together, they forge a world where friendship's bonds are tested by the city's friction, where laughter and tears emerge in the interplay of shadow and glow. And as the final credits scroll across the screen, the memory of that sun-drenched villa, that misty alleyway, that elephant's rumble, and that barn's echo lingers, an indelible testament to the alchemy of place in the telling of misadventure. Dawn's first light slipped through the soundstage shutters as grips and gaffers tiptoed across the set, whispering about the night's mischief. It had become a ritual. Each morning, the crew would gather around the scattered aftermath, cushions slashed as though by wild monkeys, overturned lamps coated in elephant mud residue, and a lone baby wolf cub toy left perched atop a shattered mirror. Production assistants, bleary-eyed yet eager, would sip their Thai-iced coffees while marveling that a comedy so meticulously planned could yield such delightful anarchy. And thus began another day of capturing controlled chaos, guided by the promise that the film's spirit thrived on the unpredictable. In the wardrobe trailer, costume designer Christine Bach faced her own version of mayhem. The day before, Ed Helms had emerged sporting a handlebar mustache so perfect it looked digitally applied, a testament to weeks of patient grooming in Toronto and whispered consultations with mustache wax artisans via Skype. Yet on set, a mischievous gecko had infiltrated the trailer, mistaking the mustache's styling gel for insect larvae. Each morning, Bach would discover tiny lizard-shaped impressions on Ed's cheeks, accompanied by furious squeals and a flourish of tail as the gecko escaped through hair clips. Eventually, Bach caved, installing miniature gecko hideouts filled with crickets, turning the gecko's misadventures into an affectionate crew mascot dubbed Handlebar. The villa courtyard became the site of perhaps the most audacious stunt of the shoot. Director Todd Phillips envisioned a nighttime revel in which the protagonists would slip on banana peels amid scattered lantern light, a nod to silent film-era slapstick. Prop master Miguel Hernandez, ever the inventor, arranged dozens of perfectly ripened bananas under lanterns and rugs. Yet when the stunt team tested the sequence, they found the peels too slippery. Stunt doubles slid clear across the courtyard, veered into decorative fountains, and collided with art decor items. Undeterred, Hernandez repurposed the peels. He dried them in industrial ovens until they became brittle like potato chips, then lightly oiled them so the slips would feel dramatic yet safe. The result was a ballet of banana peel pratfalls that left the actors mid-take applauding their own coordination. One of the film's most memorable days unfolded at the Elephant Sanctuary set. Animal wranglers had arrived with a small herd, each elephant outfitted with decorative blankets and plastic banana props. The plan called for a controlled scene in which an elephant would raise its trunk to reveal Teddy's wedding ring. In the first rehearsal, the elephant mistook the prop bananas for snacks and lunged for the tables, sending trainers and extras chart-wheeling in a flurry of silk and sequins. After hours of gentle coaxing with bananas on ropes and a lullaby sung by the wranglers, the lead elephant, affectionately called Tie Titan, performed the trunk lift perfectly. The behind-the-scenes footage of wranglers serenading a sleepy pachyderm to do a precise honk remains a fan-favorite excerpt in the bonus features. In the sound department, veteran mixer Bill Ramsey faced a unique challenge, capturing the roar of Bangkok's nightlife without the ironic interference of stray taxi horns. They set up boom mics along the rooftop terrace to record the rattling of neon signs and far-off tuk-tuk engines, layering them with Foley recordings of sizzling walks and murmuring crowds. But on the first playback, every take featured a distinct, unmistakable honk that belonged to a driver delivering noodles to his home, unaware his taxi served as an impromptu ADR booth. Ramsey and his team spent an afternoon mapping Bangkok's soundscape, recycling location audio until the background hummed with authenticity and the noodle taxi solo became a vanished legend. Editor Brent White's suite buzzed with the energy of chopped takes and digital wizardry. Faced with the Herculean task of assembling the frenetic tattoo montage, he enlisted stop-motion software, typically used for animated features, to smooth the transitions between 82 takes. One afternoon, while testing a sequence, White's assistant accidentally applied a frame rate meant for a Japanese soap opera, resulting in the tattoo gun moving at ghostly slow motion. Instead of discarding it, White cut the slow-mo frames into a brief dream sequence, a spontaneous homage to surreal horror, which Phillips loved and kept in the final edit. That fleeting visual glitch became an Easter egg for eagle-eyed fans to savor. On the riverside exterior, cinematographer Lawrence Sher constructed a scaffolding of lighting rigs to simulate the Chow Phraya's glow under moonlight. Their mirror bulbs, suspended like lanterns, bathed the set in silver and indigo. Yet a rogue cargo container, part of the day's river traffic, anchored in the wrong place, sending a draft of exhaust up the riverbank. Sher's crisp backlight quickly became suffused with haze, forcing the crew to improvise. They deployed industrial fans to disperse the fumes and replaced one wall of the set with breathable scrims to encourage airflow. The unplanned smoke effect, however, yielded a cinematographic dreamscape so alluring that Sher requested additional smoke machines for later exterior takes, turning an environmental nuisance into a visual blessing. Throughout the production, the hotel spa set emerged as a silent orchestra pit of behind-the-scenes drama. To evoke tropical steam, special effects technician Sarah Huckabee rigged a network of low-pressure pipes beneath the marble tiles, calibrated to spout gentle puffs of mist. Unfortunately, a valve miscalibration on a particularly humid day transformed the mist into a fog so thick that the actors vanished mid-dialogue, prompting location sound to record nothing but muffled whispers and the clustery laughter of the crew. For days, Sarah fine-tuned the system, installing moisture sensors and remote shut-off valves to maintain the illusion of warm vapors without turning the spa into a Siberian sauna. The refined steam sequences now appear as moments of meditative calm, a stark contrast to the film's relentless plunge into lunacy. The tattoo shop set brought its own share of pranks. Art director Carla Hernandez decorated the walls with ornate Thai script and racks of colorful ink bottles. On opening day, the real tattoo artist arrived to find "Quick Dry" written in Sharpie on each bottle, a nod to the sugar explosion sequence in the kitchen. Carla's homage had gone unnoticed until the artist ceremoniously uncapped a bottle and recoiled at the stench of permanent marker. Embarrassed but charmed, the artist created a custom bottle label reading "Artistic License Only," which the crew taped over Carla's graffiti. That mock warning made its way into the promotional tour, a cheeky symbol of the production's self-deprecating humor. Even the food catered its own drama. Craft services table groaned with mango sticky rice and Thai iced tea, but one afternoon the chef's update to Volcanic Spice, a special blend intended to awaken jet-lagged senses, backfired spectacularly. At the first taste, Chef Marek Horak found himself sprinting for water as tears streamed down his cheeks. Within minutes, the crew dubbed the concoction Lak Kreng, Thai for tear gas, and began crafting milder menus. Yet that fleeting inferno left tongues tingling and morale skyrocketing. Nothing bonds a fatigued crew like shared culinary carnage. The bachelor party nightclub scene, shot in a converted warehouse, required an infusion of local color. Dozens of extras clad in fluorescent bodysuits, shimmering leotards, and novelty hats swung to a mashup soundtrack of EDM and Thai pop. To heighten realism, the music supervisor recruited DJ Pechchai, a Bangkok club fixture, to mix live once cameras rolled. His pulsating beats synced perfectly with the extras' gyrations, turning what could have been a static club backdrop into a living organism of light and motion. When a fuse blew mid-set, plunging the warehouse into darkness, DJ Pechchai improvised by switching to an unplugged tabla performance, turning a crisis into an impromptu acoustic ballet that made the take unforgettable. Language barriers themselves became comedic gold. The assistant director, a polyglot named Som Chai, hosted daily phrase of the day sessions under the swaggering heat of the art department's tents. Extras mastered lines like "drop the baby, not the beat" in bubbly Thai accents, while the stunt coordinator practiced "hold my beer" with equal seriousness. By week's end, the crew had tossed around so many hybrid catchphrases, "my pen rye, bro," and "tuk-tuk time," that cast and locals burst into laughter whenever they passed on the street. Those sessions, taped by a roving camera, now populate the DVD's bonus section, proving that hilarity thrives where cultures collide. As winter's monsoon season emerged, the production confronted its greatest challenge: unplanned rainstorms that battered outdoor sets with biblical ferocity. On one notorious day, water cascaded down the villa's roofs, flooding electrical trenches and halting chutes for hours. The crew scrambled to seal cables in waterproof sheaths and borrowed inflatable barriers to stem the tide. When the rains cleared, the courtyard's puddles reflected the villa's columns in dizzying symmetry, yielding one of the film's most hauntingly beautiful shots. Rather than lament the delays, director Phillips booked a second night to capture the same storm's aftermath in all its drenched splendor, a decision that birthed the final montage's luminous rain sequences. By the time post-production wrapped, the cast and crew assembled for one final rain, dust, and sea-swept barbecue on the backlit. Elephants, children, and gecko mascots mingled beneath string lights as Thai dancers spun lotus garlands into floating circles. Helms, still sporting his impeccable mustache, pretended to pour wax into cocktails while the stunt drivers performed banana peel drills on the courtyard's slick surface. Laughter echoed through the night air as Phillips raised a coconut shell toast to every unplanned disaster turned triumph. And in that moment, it became clear that the film's beating pulse, The stories spun in the dark, the improvisations born of necessity, the friendships forged in the furnace of calamity, had created something richer than any script could prescribe. It was living art, messy, magnificent, and forever true to the spirit of controlled chaos that defined the saga from its first tumble to its final roar. The night air in Bangkok hung heavy with incense and the promise of chaos as Phil flicked his cigarette into the lotus-studded moat, the embers drifting like tiny fireflies against the palace's gilded backdrop. He didn't notice as the smoke curled over his shoulder. He was lost in the moment's fragile thrill, that electric pulse of only us standing between order and apocalypse. It was there, in that charged hush before the first cascade of folly, that the film whispered its first truth. Life is a tightrope walk between control and surrender, and sometimes it is in the fall that we discover how high we can really fly. Across the villa's marble terrace, Stu studied his own reflection in the murky water, his dental brace smile crooked with self-doubt. He had vowed to keep this trip sober, to atone for the wreckage of last time, yet here he was, already nursing an illicit tequila shot smuggled beneath his suit jacket. His reflection cracked at the corners, not a mere image but a mirror of his habitual self-sabotage. In Stu's trembling hands rested a wedding invitation smeared with palm oil and fingerprints, a symbol of commitment made messy by human frailty. From the very first acts, the film positioned fidelity not as a pristine ideal but as something to be wrestled into place amid doubt and debris. Nearby, Alan stood barefoot on the marble tiles, his chin lifted as he inhaled the scent of plumeria drifting across the courtyard. He held aloft a carved wooden amulet, a talisman pressed into his palm by a stranger at the airport, promising protection from the city's undercurrents. That amulet, carved in the shape of a howling monkey, became more than a quirky prop. It was the embodiment of Alan's faith in the supernatural, a symbol of innocence amid engulfing absurdity. Each time their world teetered into calamity, Alan's gaze flicked toward the amulet as though awaiting instruction from realms unseen, an unspoken trust that sometimes redemption arrives on tender, unpolished wings. When the tequila finally loosened Phil's tongue, he cracked a grin and paced toward the villa's antique teak columns, each carved with mythic Naga serpents winding skyward. "We're not in Vegas," he announced with a flourish, as though that one line might anchor them to sobriety. Instead, it became a clarion call for self-deception, a fantasy that they could outrun patterns etched into their bones. The serpent carvings themselves, symbols of rebirth in Thai lore, stood witness to their folly, reminding viewers that transformation requires shedding old skins, even if the process stings like fire. Their first venture into the city unfolded like a river of unwritten possibility. The streets, awash in neon and the scrawl of tuk-tuk horns, wrapped the quartet in a kaleidoscope of color and clamor. As they stumbled through stalls selling grilled squid and papaya salad, the harsh glare of temple floodlights mingled with the glow of street vendors' lamps, creating a chiaroscuro of faith and frenzy. The film's cinematography here, harsh ISO lenses dancing between shadow and shine, did more than document setting. It mirrored the characters' inner conflict. Each neon sign flickered like a thought half-remembered, each incense burner a prayer for deliverance from the night's spiraling descent. Central to the film's thematic tapestry was the motif of the lost and found. First came the baby, quiet in the back seat of an unclaimed taxi, swathed in a wool sweater too large for its tiny frame. That baby, who emerged as both prize and puzzle, became a living reminder of innocence caught in the crossfire of grown-up recklessness. When Phil cradled the child under the haze of a neon sign blazoning "Night Market," the tableau was nearly sacred, a moment of genuine care amid a maelstrom of self-indulgence. The baby's quiet coos echoed like a question. Who would protect purity when every choice threatened to shatter it? Tattoo parlor walls bled into the narrative as handheld cameras tracked Phil's chest being scrawled with incomplete Thai characters. The needle's hum became an auditory echo of their racing hearts. Each drop of ink, a physical assertion of memory amidst amnesia, signified the desperate human urge to leave a mark, to say, "I was here, I mattered." Film scholars later praised these close UPS as symbols of identity wrested from chaos. Bodies become canvases where every puncture hole demands an answer to, "Who am I when I cannot remember?" Temple sequences cast the film's moral questions against a backdrop of timeless devotion. Candles flickered in tiers upon marble altars, their flames dancing in sync with the actors' quickened breaths. Monks in saffron robes, carved in slow motion, appeared as living statues, their serene chants weaving a counterpoint to the friends' frantic footsteps. Here, water lilies drifted across lotus ponds like drifting thoughts, each blossom a silent question. Can one find absolution in ritual when one's own deeds blur with haze? The film's use of wide lens and dolly shots elevated these temple moments into poetic interludes, as though every flicker of a lantern held a secret dream of redemption. The elephants, those ancient gray emperors of the jungle, emerged as primal symbols at the story's heart. In the shadow of banyan trees, the pachyderms lumbered across dusky enclosures, their massive forms brushing against the characters like sentinels of memory. When Teddy's wedding ring dangled from an elephant's chain, it became more than a prop. It was the chain between past and future, tethering his hopeful vow to a creature older than human folly. The pachydermal presence suggested a theme of endurance, that some bonds outlast even the sting of chaos, carried forward on the slow, patient rhythm of a 1,000-pound heart. In the barn's claustrophobic gloom, the film plunged into its darkest allegory. Suspended in the half-light, ropes binding Teddy to a wooden chair seemed to stitch together the seams of his shattered confidence. The barn's rotten beams, suggestively bowing under the night's weight, mirrored the cracking exteriors of every friend who watched in horror. Lightning flared, casting ragged shadows across sweat-glossed faces, and an unspoken dread wove through their ranks. Perhaps salvation demands a confrontation with our own deepest failures. Director's choice of tight-close UPS and staccato cuts during the barn rescue amplified that unease, leaving viewers breathless as comedic boundaries dissolved into primal fear. Rain became a recurring symbol of both cleansing and peril as the final chase unfolded beneath monsoon skies. High-angle shots captured the quartet hurtling across flooded streets, the water lapping their ankles like a warning from the unfathomable depths. Thunder rolled in as a percussion score, punctuating each near collision with a reminder of nature's unpredictable might. Yet in the deluge's spotlight, their borrowed motorbike became a vessel of shared purpose, two wheels slicing through teak-brown waters, each drop of rain a baptism in commitment. When they finally reached the villa, soaked to the bone, their embrace beneath lantern glow signified a theme central to the film. That friendship, battered by storm and self-inflicted wounds, can be reborn in the bracing cold of confession. Throughout the story, artifacts surfaced as potent symbols. The embellished cufflinks found in the alley, silver anchors stamped with Thai scrollwork, represented the retrieval of commitments eroded by time and folly. The half-empty jars of peanut butter, smeared across door frames, echoed the sticky residue of impulsive decisions that defy easy cleanup. And the final shot of the four friends, huddled beneath tattered wedding garlands, their laughter echoing across silent marble floors, stood as a living metaphor, that in the wreckage of our grandest intentions lie the shards of truth we must sift through, one by one, to rebuild our shared humanity. In the end, the film's themes of accountability, memory, and redemption unfurled not as cold edicts but as living, beating rhythms echoing in every frame. Cinematic elements, diffused lantern light softening the broadest temples, handheld lenses dancing across neon labyrinths, and thunderous foley underscoring pachyderm calls, elevated these themes into sensory revelations. The story wove an immersive tapestry where every drop of sweat, every flicker of a flame, and every splash of muddy water became a stanza in a grand poem about the fragile art of recollection and the enduring power of friendship. As the credits rolled and the final strains of the score dissolved into the hush of that Bangkok night, the film left its audience with a single abiding truth. In the chaos of living, the bonds we forge, however tested by folly, can guide us back from the edge of ourselves, one wild, unforgettable odyssey at a time. Before First Light had fully gripped the Chow Phraya, the grip crew was already at work, dragging steel dollies and lighting booms across the villa courtyard. Each piece of equipment was chosen not with clinical precision but with an eye toward wrangling Bangkok's unpredictable energy into the frame. The cinematographer, Lawrence Sher, insisted on bringing both motion and texture to every shot. For the villa's morning exteriors, he fitted long lenses to his cameras and perched them on cranes to capture the sun's first rays fracturing through palm fronds. As the golden glow spilled across polished teak and alabaster walls, viewers felt the humid warmth seep through the screen, a silent invitation into the story's sensory tapestry. Inside the villa's hush, Schur switched tactics. He exchanged wide lenses for longer primes, peeling back the layers of space to expose the fine lines of sweat on Phil's brow and the nervous tremble in Stu's jaw. By diffusing the key lights through silk scrims, he created soft, enveloping warmth that lulled audiences into a deceptive calm, an atmosphere that would soon be shattered by the film's signature burst of chaos. It was this interplay of broad, sweeping visuals and intimate close-ups that gave the film its distinctive rhythm, grandeur giving way to personal panic, and back again, as though the camera itself held its breath in anticipation of the chaos to come. When night fell, the real magic began. The production design team rigged hundreds of practical lanterns along the villa's eaves, their flicker captured in wide shots that mimicked the city's neon heartbeat. Schur and his team chose to underexpose the periphery of these frames, letting darkness swallow the edges and focus the eye on the characters' immediate spaces. In wide panoramas, the villa seemed to float on a sea of inky night, its edges dissolving into shadow. Then, when the party kicked off, the lighting would snap open into full color, each flash of a strobe playing like a punctuation mark against the ebony sky. Editors, splicing these night sequences, leaned into match cuts that linked candle flares to club strobes, turning atmosphere into narrative punctuation. The editing suite, housed in a repurposed warehouse 2 blocks from the villa, buzzed with near-constant deliberation over pacing. Editor Brent White approached the film as both a comedy and a pulse-racing thriller. He carved out sequences with razor-edge precision, a morning montage of defeated confusion that lingered long enough to let viewers taste the hangover, followed by a jagged succession of cuts as the clues surfaced: the abandoned baby in the back seat, the smeared invitation in the alley, the cryptic brand of the tattoo gun. These sequences built momentum not with rapid-fire gags alone, but by modulating breathe-out moments of stunned silence, moments when the only sound was the hero's own gulping breath in a quiet room. In those pauses, anticipation coiled like a spring, ensuring that every subsequent burst of laughter felt earned. Sound design further amplified this dynamic. Sound editor Frank Patterson recorded field ambiences across Bangkok's districts, the low rumble of packed night markets, the staccato clatter of steel trays in street food stalls, and even the distant thrum of a passing train on the elevated rails. Into this vibrant tapestry, he wove Foley tracks, Phil's lurching footsteps over puddles, the soft snarl of a taxi door slamming, the hiss of a tattoo gun buzzing. All of these layered to create a sonic mirror of the protagonist's disorientation. Each new location greeted them, and the audience, with a pulse of unfamiliar sound, stirring both excitement and unease. Music, composed by Christoph Beck, threaded through these soundscapes with a light but insistent touch. In moments of camaraderie, drinking virgin mojitos on the villa terrace, he introduced a gentle marimba motif that danced across the strings. When the night fractures into search sequences, electronic percussion creeps in, setting a propulsive heartbeat that drives the chase forward. Then in episodes of genuine surprise, the baby's first coup, the elephant's trumpet, Beck's orchestration would blend in a sudden swell of strings or brass, elevating what might have been a mere gag into an emotional pivot. Viewers familiar with the original film recognized these musical cues as echoes of old jokes, but recontextualized here against tropical backdrops, they gained new resonance, underscoring the sequel's thematic core of renewal amid chaos. Production sound mixer John Wiley faced the Herculean task of capturing dialogue in environments designed for pandemonium. On the set of the nightclub scenes, an industrial warehouse strewn with neon graffiti and crawling with extras, he flanked the actors with hidden lavalier mics while overhead blimps snooped for ambient noise. When a fuse blew mid-take, plunging the set into mock darkness, Wiley instinctively cut to backup sources, isolating the actors' frantic lines from the din of extras' surprised laughter. It was a near-invisible art. Viewers hear the characters' pleas and quips as though nothing had gone awry, unaware that sometimes a single boom drop or track could spell the difference between chaos and coherence. The film's action sequences demanded specialized rigs. For the climactic elephant barn rescue, 2nd Unit Director Sidney K. Lee oversaw the construction of a gimbal platform beneath a massive overhead lighting grid. The camera floated on this gimbal as actors wove through crates and beams, the ground heaving in simulated tremors. When the villains advanced, the gimbal dipped to chest level, offering a visceral spin through the actors' heads, an immersive POV that plunged viewers into the swirling dust and horn blasts. Lee matched these takes with GoPro footage strapped to elephant tusks, an unexpected camera angle that captured the pachyderm's rumbling gait as though the beasts themselves were chronicling the rescue.